Welcome to Friends, Life, and Ministry. Real talk from four pastors with over 200 years of ministry experience.
Hey, welcome to Friends, Life, and Ministry. We're four colleagues. Our dear friend John Van Dinther can't join us today, who have a total of 200 years plus of ministry. And we try to pick a topic to talk about that maybe will help you as a pastor, as a leader in your church context or in your life context. And today, what we want to talk about is how do you adjust ministry when kids go back into school? What are things, because it's kind of a startup in many ways when kids go back to school. So we're going to toss some ideas out, and we'd love to hear ideas that you relate to in that way too. Bill, you want to get us started?
I think one of the hardest things in most communities is that school starts on different days. When I was younger, it was pretty traditional that school would start the next day after Labor Day, and the fall would kind of have a beginning to it. But now it's all over. Like in California, most of the kids are in school in August already. And a lot of the other schools, parochial schools, are a little later, and the high school is different than grammar school. And it's really hard because schools are not on the same schedules and they're not on the same vacation schedules. So it's hard as a family to figure out what's going to work and make plans work. But we know that generally around this time, we would start out actually when I was in Southern California that in beginning of August, we would have a special time of prayer for the kids who are going away to college. And
Mm.
we want to thank you for being part of our church for a long time. And we want you to know that we're going to be praying for you and we're here for you if you have any needs these days. And then just have the kids stand and have the people put their hands on them who are around them and just pray God's blessing over them. And then about this time, we would pray for the teachers who are going back and the principals and the educators and the people who did the cleaning in the schools. We pray for them that God would give them a great year. And then on that same Sunday, normally, we would pray for the kids who are going away locally and have them stand again and just pray God's blessing over them. And then we didn't really give away gifts or anything like that, but we would have a special things like maybe it'd be one of those days we'd have donuts outside, so there was something special to acknowledge that day. And but one of the big challenges I see it with my kids and with their families is trying to figure out how to do vacations and getaways and stuff, and it's just so hard because the schools are all on different schedules now.
I had heard of a church that followed your practice. It was a much smaller church than the one that you had pastored. I think that they had um, 200 or 300 people. I can't even remember which church it was, but what one of their um, key values was honoring. And so throughout the course of a year, they would honor the policemen and they would take out an ad in the newspaper and invite them just to be honored. There's every year there's a date that police are honored, and especially those who've lost their lives, and they're read out loud. And so that is a fixed date nationally, I think. And then they also did it with the fire department, and then they did it with education. And towards the end of the summer, they would post this, and they would um, they they just wanted to honor, they wanted to celebrate what the all of the people that you talked about were doing. And then what they did is they took a significant part of their budget and they bought $100 gift cards to some store, I'm Staples or Walmart or something, to just help the teachers get the classroom ready. And There wasn't any pressure about, trying to get them to come back. The whole service was just about how do we honor people and especially those who serve. And so whether it was a custodian, like you said, or a principal, or uh, oftentimes they told me that the superintendent of schools would come. Again, it was just a not a sneaky way of trying to put pressure on people to come back, but a way of caring about. It's kind of like I've heard of churches that voluntarily pay property tax, but they aren't charged property tax. So what they'll do is they'll um, find out what um, the fire department or some part of the money that typically goes to things would be needed in that community, and they would buy that for them. And so, but I just was really impressed by this church that had honor as one of their values, and then they really went for it.
That's a great example. When I think a couple things I think is one, if before school starts, whenever that is, if you realize that as people are preparing for school to start, it might be a time where they think about the church and might visit. So just be
Hmm.
prepared for connecting with visitors before that time. And then if you can plan a time where there are ministries that are beginning up, because so many people will consider doing one more thing, joining a men's group or women's
Hmm.
group, some small group, um, if it's beginning and giving that chance for a new beginning, and to have things like that planned and have information so that people can make a decision about what they want to do. Sometimes it's even just simple things. I've been surprised that people will think that our children's ministry, either for preschoolers or grade schoolers, that there must be a charge, and
Yeah.
that just telling them that that's free, and
And your church does it so well.
well, and just
Yeah.
if they can, if people can know that that's available for them. um, Sometimes if you have a hook on those first couple Sundays after school has started, that's good for inviting people back. That can be
Mhm.
something that can be helpful.
When we used to do that, Paul, we would, one thing I found is I would not talk about like this class we're going to have on our church culture. I will not say, hey, we've got a class and today's the first day. You can come and be part of it. We would always have kind of basically at least two first days, but we wouldn't call it that.
Okay.
So we'd say today is day we're going to talk about our church culture, kind of information. Hope you'll come and join us. And then the following week we would say, hey, we're really kind of getting serious now about the class, so we're going to be starting to move forward now. It'd be really good if you could come today, because a lot of people, if they don't make the first week, they won't come then. They
Hmm.
feel like they missed the beginning. They'll wait till the next one or whatever. So sometimes it's good to have more than one beginning.
Oh, that's a great idea.
It
Yeah.
is. One of the things that I've heard of another church doing, which I think is a really good idea, is they offer tutoring on Tuesday nights. So right after school, um, they will have people who have expertise in a whole variety of things, whether it be reading or math or science, whatever it would be. And the for 2 hours, they have all of these volunteers, and they have all of the um, students that want to come, just to come there as a safe place to be tutored. And they have a little snack for them, and brings people into the church and shows those families that the church really wants to serve. And so, that's just another idea. It doesn't cost you hardly anything to do. And a lot of times it's just spending time with those kids and helping them through um, hopefully math and things that you can actually do. But I think that that would be a real
Yeah,
good
great
idea.
idea. Another thing we found that was really helpful is you have to send out a clear signal that everything is kind of starting up again. And whenever that is, in most churches now, it's going to be not going to be just one particular day, but you need to kind of say, we want you to come back to church now. The classes for kids and the classes for adults are just getting ready to begin a new semester, and we'd love to have you come and be part of it or something. But some kind of signal that says this is the time to come back to church now.
That's a
Excellent.
great idea.
The
Um,
church that um, I had been involved in starting and haven't been involved with for over 20 years, um, they have their church picnic on the Sunday after Labor Day. And so they do food trucks, they do all kinds of bouncy things, and they just really make it a big deal. And this year I'll be having an opportunity to go and see how that works out. But I've heard that it's just really spectacular.
I was at a church recently, just hearing about their planning structure. They talk about planning with staff and lay leaders where 6 months before you determine the vision for an event, and then
Mm.
3 months you have the strategy in place. And then a month out, you have, all the implementation details figured out. Not saying you won't adjust things after that, but that what I liked about that is I think a lot of times as churches we end up being under visioned, under planned in terms of strategy, and so we get flat-footed when a particular opportunity or event comes up.
Yeah,
And that just create so in their staff rhythm on every agenda or every meeting with lay leaders, they include all three of those. What's 6 months out, what's 3 months out, what's 1 month out. And I think that could help you
sure.
to get a better plan in place.
I notice in most of our church starts, they realize that there's kind of a key day. So maybe like they'll realize Christmas Eve is an important outreach day and people will do it. But on Christmas Eve, they want to be able to announce the new series of messages, which is starting a week or two later, or same on Easter, have a big Easter service, but then say, hey, next week we're going to start a new series on how to raise a family today, and we've got some psychologists and people who are going to come and help us do that together with some scripture, or something to kind of build up that the big day isn't the big day, it's the beginning of a new cycle kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I like that the focus on, communicating well. And
Yeah,
and you just I think sometimes they say like the rule of seven, you need seven communication events in order for someone to decide to do something. And
Mhm.
so that doesn't mean 7 Sundays in a row. It means like
yeah.
finding different ways that you communicate about, something that you really would like people to participate in.
Steve was saying earlier, you can take out a full page ad in the paper, the local paper, whatever like that. And then he started to chuckle a little bit because you realize so many communities anymore,
Mhm.
we don't have what we had when we started.
Yep.
We had community newspapers, but now if you have something in a community, there are multiple sources of information that are going out to people. So it's hard. We don't have that that one main thing like we used to have.
Well, and some of it's using social media, but also having people that have good social media presence,
Yeah.
endorse the event that you're talking about. A lot of times that's going to make a bigger impact than even just the church posting it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever the option is.
That's why
Mhm.
that planning you talked about is so important, Paul, that you're planning months in advance so you can start to get the word out sooner.
And Paul, I remember um, going into the fall, your church made a high priority, especially with a, a daughter church of yours, to make sure that every child had a backpack with supplies. And the area that your church is in, that's less of a need. But I always thought that was just a remarkable decision that you made. Not only um, that you did it, but all of the planning that was involved and knowing what that school required each student to have. Do you remember how many backpacks you gave out?
Well, we'd give 100 to 200 backpacks, something like that. And the other thing that we found is a lot of times the newest people and even visiting people would want to get involved. You know,
Yeah.
we'd buy the backpacks, but then we'd give a list of supplies. And that everyone has a sense of wanting to help out. A lot of
Yeah.
times people don't know how to help out. So if you
Hmm.
give them options like that, that can be really helpful for people. Just a clear way that they could practice some generosity. And that's a good thing to think all through as you're launching ministries, and as you're doing you know doing things. If you include something where it's giving back to the community, a lot of people will want to get involved with that. It actually is a way of value adding an event that you're doing. Particularly for
Yeah.
we're in an area where um, people, most all the people have the financial resources to, care for their kids and their own school needs and things like that. But I think because of that, they love if they know they can make a difference with people that don't have that.
Yeah, I think that's great. And just from what has been brought up with Christmas and everything else, there's it seems like churches have gone pretty big into something called trunk or treat. Have you heard of that?
Yep, that's a big thing too.
Halloween. Yeah.
And when I was at uh, community church in Oshkosh, there was a couple that was retired. They were probably about 75, and they didn't want to be there for it. That's not how they wanted to spend their time, but they bought full-size candy bars, not the little tiny ones. And they would bring this big bag to me and give it to me just before church on a Sunday. And I thought, oh, is that ever a cool thing to do? I mean, that's like overwhelming to a child to see that someone would do that.
My father used to believe in that, and we still do that. Halloween, people knock on our door, whatever, we give her a full-size candy bar every year. I don't want to be known as that cheap guy up the street. I want to be known as the
Yep.
guy who takes good care of us. And the kids are shocked. The kids are always, look at that. Oh, look, it's a full-size Snickers bar or something. And it doesn't cost that much to do it. So, uh,
Bill, you do that in every part of your life.
I was going to say one of
Practice
the things
generosity.
my church in Whittier has kind of grown through the years. It's Whittier Area Community Church. Everybody just calls it WAC. And they have what they call the WAC rack this time of year. It was just a few weeks ago. And the people bring clothing that they don't need anymore, especially for kids, school
Yep.
clothing. and then they have tables of that sorted by size, and they have the backpacks and the school supplies and different things, some jackets and coats and shoes, and they fill the whole sports center with all that stuff. And then they invite people from dependent children's things and different ministries to kids, Boys and Girls Club in the community to come in, and then they're given like vouchers that there's so much money that they can spend or so many things they can get. And they 2 weeks ago they had 700 people come in and
Oh,
make use of those resources. So it's something where if you really want to help the poor in your community, it really is one of the great times of year when whether it's backpacks, school supplies, whatever we do, it's not just community and everything. It really is, I think, one of our best efforts with the poor.
That's
you know,
so
it kind of reminds me that what we do, and of course, we don't have little kids anymore, but we're always bringing them to some charity. I think my wife every week drops something off. And the idea of saving them up for a event like that in the fall is just a great idea if you've got kids.
Well, we hope that our our kind of brainstorming time will help you with some ideas. And I think too, if you pray and ask God through the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit to show you in your context specific ways that you can care for people and acknowledge when people are giving more opportunity to be part of the church, God will do that. Thanks for joining us with Friends, Life, and Ministry. Uh, let us send us questions, send us ideas for these podcasts. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening or watching. We would love to hear your questions.